Shea Stadium, the big story, Mets 86, exciting, thrilling. Come on! Let's go! You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here. Let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home. Let's
Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, round-table podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome to the first Mets spring training report right here on the channel. How is everybody doing on this Valentine's Day, Friday, February 14th? 2025. Welcome to the channel, guys. Hopefully everybody's getting ready for a weekend, and just in a few days it would be all players in attendance for spring training. And obviously the poll is out there. Who are you most excited to see in spring training? Juan Soto, Brandon Sproat, Clay Holmes, and just others as well. Obviously Juan Soto is winning the race in that poll, and make sure you click on that poll and vote on that poll. Obviously, a lot of people are excited to see Juan Soto. Pete Alonso should be here any day now at spring training, and of course, a few days from now, you'll see the rest of the players. A lot of people, I was actually shocked that a lot of people are more excited to see Juan Soto in spring training than actually one of the top prospects in Brandon Sproat. He did get a couple of the votes, of course, but it is nice to see that people are once again excited for Juan Soto. Again, it was such a long offseason after the Juan Soto signing that I think we not really forgot about Juan Soto, but it was such a long time ago. It was the winter meetings in early December where we signed Juan Soto. And look, we're in the middle of February now. I mean, that was 2 months ago. That was a long time ago, and a lot of frustration, a lot of excitement in between all of that. And now we get to talk about actual baseball, actual surprises already when pitchers and catchers have arrived in spring training. And we're also going to talk about all of that throughout the show today. So make sure you hit that like button, guys. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. All right, guys. So we're going to get right into it, and make sure you follow me on X at TMWRNYM. So you get all the updates, you get all the live streams, the videos that come out. I post on X as well. And of course, if you look on the side of the screen right now, the new shows for the 2025 season is the Amazing Mets pregame show with myself and Chris. And of course, the only post-game show you want to watch, post-game show 2025, with, of course, myself and Chris. And throughout the season, we'll be doing obviously co-hosting together, and of course, when schedule doesn't allow it, we'll be doing solo shows for both of those pregame and postgame as well. Yeah, Truman, that's fine. Bregman wasn't obviously going to happen after the Pete Alonso signing, but again, interesting to think that nobody thought Bregman was going to get $40 million. It is a short-term deal. It is 2 opt-outs, but that's a massive payday, right? Pete Alonso got $30 million a year. Bregman got $40 million a year, and both of them are on short contracts and probably most likely 1-year deals, because I do feel like Pete Alonso's going to opt out. I don't know if Bregman's going to opt out, but, $40 million a year is $40 million a year. Unless they have terrible seasons, I find it hard to believe that Pete Alonso is not going to opt out. But let's get into the spring training news that we've heard over the last day or 24 hours or so. And Jonathan, I appreciate that, buddy. Keep on coming back for more. I tell you, we do have a very exciting 2025, so keep on coming back for more. I do appreciate it. So, obviously, the first thing that we've seen over the first couple of days of pitchers and catchers is that Brandon Sproat had a live BP, and he opened up some eyes, right? A lot of people are excited about him, number 1 prospect in the Mets system. He is a guy that is seemingly untouchable in this farm system for the New York Mets, and he showed up basically first time on the mound, live batting practice at spring training, just mowing down batters. And these aren't minor league guys; these are major league guys that were taking swings off of Brandon Sproat live BP, and he had a nasty changeup. He had just blown by the fastball. This is a kid that the Mets believe can be at the top of the rotation, if not late this year, to help this team definitely next year in 2026. And he seemingly is untouchable, guys. And again, we went through the offseason and thinking, could they trade a couple of prospects? Is Brandon Sproat an untouchable to trade? If it's the right deal, would he go in a deal for a guy like Garrett Crochet? Obviously, the White Sox wanted him in a deal. They wanted a massive return for Garrett Crochet. Obviously, Crochet went to the Red Sox. And then we're talking about the Dylan Cease situation. Would it make sense to throw Brandon Sproat in a trade for a rental? Even though I would love Dylan Cease here in this rotation, it would solidify the offseason, and I would grade it an A+ if they would find a way to get Dylan Cease here. But I don't know if I would give up Brandon Sproat as part of the package for Dylan Cease. So all eyes are on Brandon Sproat right now. He's going to be in AAA. This is obviously his last time to shine before Mets make a decision on if they're going to bring him up sometime this year. Because again, I don't have a lot of confidence in this rotation. I do believe there's going to be changes probably midway through, probably prior to the deadline, that there's going to be changes within this rotation. And I do wonder if Brandon Sproat, if he's showing some signs and pitching well in the minors, do they give him an opportunity like they did Christian Scott last year before he got hurt? This is a situation that I believe could happen when it comes to Brandon Sproat, because I don't trust this rotation. I think there's a possibility that either Montas or Senga are not going to be able to pitch the way the Mets believe they should pitch. I think Senga, I'm not sure. Look, he's fully healthy, according to multiple people. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just don't feel like, the Clay Holmes situation and the Kodai Senga and Montas situation. I think Montas, even if he doesn't pitch well, I find it hard to believe that the Mets are going to just throw him out of the rotation. He is a guy that can eat innings probably more than anybody else in this rotation at this point. So he seems like a steady, easy guy in this rotation. Clay Holmes, until I see it, and we'll also talk about him as well, the confidence level in this rotation, I would say, is probably, to me, it's 50-50, to be quite honest with you, because I just don't believe this rotation can be more than above average, where we're not going to be complaining about this rotation the first half of the season. And that's where we're going to, I think, hopefully don't fall into issues because the offense is taking care of their business and the bullpen is taking care of their business. But I do believe Sproat is probably going to be a Christian Scott of last year. I think he's going to show something, or the year before. I think we're going to see Brandon Sproat a part of this 2025 team at some point with the needed help that we might need in the rotation. I wouldn't be shocked if Sproat is pitching well. He might get the opportunity just like Christian Scott did for the Mets before he got injured. So he looked good in bullpen. That's a good sign. We like that. And I do appreciate the fact that what the Mets see in him, and you could tell, right, he's very confident, which is great to see from anybody, any prospect, but specifically a pitcher. He looks confident on the mound. He demands attention. He demands the confidence on the mound, right? He does not look afraid on the mound. Again, this is a live bullpen. It's spring training. You're not going to go crazy, right? Let's see what happens when there's 2 outs in the top or bottom of the ninth, or, in the sixth inning when he has to get a big out, and we'll see where that confidence is. But it is a good sign that he made a couple of major league hitters look kind of silly in the live bullpen. So we'll see where Brandon Sproat goes from here. We'll see how good of a spring training he does have. And speaking of live bullpen, Clay Holmes did impress the New York Mets and players and reporters in spring training the other day. And the interesting thing with Clay Holmes is the fact that he threw 3 innings in a live BP. Now, this is only a couple days into pitchers and catchers, right? What I love about the fact, and again, I still believe that at some point Clay Holmes is going to be in the bullpen, in my opinion. I don't feel like he's going to be the Seth Lugo or the Michael King. Listen, I hope that's the case. Then, we got a gem here for $11 million per year with that 3-year deal. So I hope that's the case, that it can turn into a Michael King or a Seth Lugo, but I don't have that confidence level as of yet. But I am impressed. What he did in the live bullpen session, according to all the reports, was that he threw that new changeup that he has. His fastball was at 96, 97. Good signs from Clay Holmes, which is nice to see. And what also I'm very happy was that during the offseason, he clearly was been stretching his arm out, at least over the last month and a half, because you don't go into day 2 of spring training, pitchers and catchers, and throw 3 innings of live BP. You just don't do that. So he's clearly been working this whole time. He's clearly been looking for a team this offseason that would offer him a starting gig in MLB. And the Mets were one of the teams that would do that, or maybe the only team, who knows. But he was clearly working himself up in the offseason to become a starter, stretching his arm out and throwing 3 innings in live VP in, basically 2 days of spring training. That's a very good sign. And I really like the fact that he's putting that dedication in on there. Again, we'll see what happens when it comes to, regular season, when he has to pitch every 5th day, when he has to throw 90, 95 pitchers. We'll see how he can recover. Even though bullpen arms, he could throw 25 pitches and pitch the next day. It's different recovery times, different ways to go about it. There's a lot of downtime as well in between innings. We'll see if he can do it. But the hard work has been going on in the offseason, and it's clearly showing off in basically day 1 of, live bullpens for pitchers. And Clay Holmes is one of those guys that shown that pitching 3 innings, he's worked hard in the offseason to stretch out that arm. And I do like that. And I appreciate the fact that he's working hard. And again, you work hard, nobody's going to kill you. Yes, you're going to have bad performances. You're not going to pitch well, and, you'll get killed from Met fans, but you're not seeing him being lazy. You're not seeing him not putting in the work. And that's already a good sign in day 2 of spring training and in pitchers and catchers. So We'll see what it is with Clay Holmes. He's obviously going to be a back end of the rotation guy, at least starting the season. And I do like the fact that he worked in, he learned to change up, which is very good because it's hard to be a starter and be a two-pitch pitcher. And obviously he was a starter very early on in his career with Pittsburgh. So he has an arsenal. It's just that when he became a bullpen guy, specifically for the Yankees, he had to, limit his pitches, his two best pitchers. And that's what he was using when he was closing for the Yankees and being in the bullpen for the Yankees. So he needed another pitch. And to learn that changeup, again, we don't know how good it's going to look. He threw it a couple of times in the live BP, and it looked nasty. But once again, when you're throwing it, 85 to 95 pitches in a start, we'll see how sharp that changeup is when he needs it and when he needs that strikeout pitch to combat his 96 to 98 miles an hour fastball. So we'll see. We will see. Listen, I'm hoping he is Michael King. He is Seth Lugo. Again, I'm not going to go as far as those guys, but if he gets close to that, obviously it is an upgrade from what the Mets had in 2024. But we have to see. And Ethan, I am not going to spring training this year, unfortunately. I went last year. Excuse me, I did. It was cool. It was fun. This year I couldn't go again, moving and getting into a new location. It's not the same bosses. It's different vacation. So it is what it is. Can't do nothing about it. I wish I could, but you can't do nothing about it at this point. It is what it is. I am going to opening day in Houston. So that's the important thing as a visual. So I'm hoping I can get to enjoy opening day in Houston. All right. So Clay Holmes, we'll see how it goes. He impressed in the live bullpen, and we'll see if he can continue the growth, continue stretching out his arm, which shouldn't be an issue, stretching out his arm, because, well, he's been doing it in the offseason clearly. But I can't wait to see him in spring training games. Obviously, we're about a week away until, spring training games, and we'll see, what he does. And, obviously you want to see him with major league hitters, but just to see him on the mound, see how he controls the game is the important factor in any of the starters. And, with the Mets rotation, with a ton of question marks, you want to see how Kodai Senga recovers after a start, stretching out his arm. Can he stay healthy? At the moment, according to reports, he is fully healthy, right? They're probably going to take their time with him, but he did throw a bullpen today. He was throwing all his pitches, which is a good sign. So, again, if Kodai Senga is healthy, we'll see, right? He's going to get a six-man rotation. The Mets are basically putting this rotation on a silver platter for him. There can't be anything else the Mets can do to give this guy everything he needs to be successful on the mound every sixth day. They're going to a six-man rotation because of Kodai Senga, right? It's a philosophy, right? It's a philosophy that teams tried, and it seems like they go away from. Right? It's not, I still, and we did it on the last hot stuff with me and Chris. I still believe you don't do a six-man rotation because you think the philosophy is going to be successful in games overall through 162 game season. I think they're doing a six-man rotation because of need. Because again, the Mets have been on other pitchers. They've tried to get Garrett Crochet. There still might be talks with the Padres in regards to Dylan Cease. If you're confident in your rotation, you are not trying to go after Garrett Crochet. You're not trying to still talk to the Padres with Dylan Cease. I truly believe when they talk about how confident they are in this rotation, including Stearns, I don't believe he's being 100% honest. Because if you're that confident in what you put together, you're not trying to go get Dylan Cease prior to the season. You're just not. Especially a guy who is a rental. So you go into a six-man rotation because Kodai Senga, he showed it to you, he proved it to you in 2023 that even though he was damn good, he could not pitch every fifth day. When he did have to pitch every fifth day, his numbers jumped dramatically. His numbers were really good when he pitched on the sixth day, or occasionally when he pitched in the seventh day. So he had 5 days of rest and pitched on the sixth day, or sometimes depending on off days or rainouts, he would get an extra day and pitch on a 7th day when he had 6 days of rest. That's when he was most successful, when he had 5 days of rest or 6 days of rest. The problem that I always have with that is that guys who've done 5-man rotation basically their entire career, Sean Manaea, right? Frankie Montas, let's be honest, David Peterson, can they adjust to getting that extra day off, right? It might ultimately keep them healthy, but will their arms be too strong that day when their spot comes up in the rotation? Are they going to be too strong? And we hear all the time when it comes to pitchers that when they're too strong, when they get too much rest, when they're strong, they overthrow, right? Their fastball is a tick or two higher. Their changeup, their breaking balls, their off-speed pitches are a tick or two faster, so it doesn't look as different and it isn't as sharp, and it's not confusing to hitters that are looking for the fastball and you try to throw a changeup and the changeup is a couple of ticks higher velocity wise, and it's not a major difference with their fastball. And then, that's when they find out they get into trouble during the season. But again, we have to wait and see, right? Most of these guys have not pitched in a 6-man rotation. Kodai Senga is used to this from Japan. He did it in 2023 with the Mets when he was successful. He pitched the majority of his time on 5 days of rest and pitched on the 6th day. I do worry that it might affect other guys on the team. Now, maybe they'll do it over the next couple of weeks or next month and a half of spring training where they'll do a 5-day rest period, and we'll see. But again, I don't like catering to one guy in a 6-man rotation because you have to cater to one guy, because we know, according to what we've seen in 2023, Kodai Senga does not pitch well on just 4 days rest and pitch on the 5th day. This is why the Mets are going to a 6-man rotation, because they need to cater to Kodai Senga, right? The Mets' success with their rotation needs to have Kodai Senga pitching well. And I understand the logic, I understand the philosophy of what they're trying to do, but to cater mostly to one guy because that guy don't pitch well when he has 4 days off and pitches on the 5th day, that concerns me. That does concern me. Can it change? Could it be just a blessing in disguise and it works out? Sure. And speaking of Clay Holmes, to go back to the second topic, the fact of the matter is, with Clay Holmes, they also said, there was a question, and thank God somebody brought it up, whoever the reporter was, asked Mendoza, is there an innings limit? Or asked David Stearns, is there an innings limit on Clay Holmes? That's a great question. And they didn't say there is, but it wasn't ultimately going to be an innings limit for Clay Holmes, which you don't have to put an innings limit on Clay Holmes. But again, how many innings has he pitched as a bullpen on? What was the most? 80 innings, 85 innings, right? You need him to go probably between 150 and 170 to be at least the guy that can actually pitch every 5th or 6th day and pitch 150 to 165 innings. So that is the other thing that is the major issue that is concerning to me, right? Just because there's no innings limit on Clay Holmes doesn't mean he can pitch 150, 160, possibly even 170 innings, right? Sean Manaea pitched 170 innings last year. We saw that he declined. He got tired, when he got into the playoffs at the end of it. David Peterson still looks sharp. But again, you want to see these guys recover, right? We did go deep into the postseason. We pitched later than most other pitchers. That's recovery time. Can they do that? That is the possibility. That is the hope that they can do that. And we'll have to see with that. But again, Senga threw a bullpen session. He threw all of the pitches. According to multiple reports, he is fully healthy. Again, it wasn't major arm injuries. We know what happened with it was a strained calf, the second injury. So if that healed up, it's not major arm injury. So that helps. But again, he was out the entire year, right? They're going to take it slow. Even with a 6-man rotation, they're going to take it slow with Kodai Senga in the early parts of the season. And I understand the 6-man rotation and the 5-man rotation is a boring topic, but it's a very necessary topic because all we're going to talk about when things are not going right or good or bad, we're going to talk about the 6-man rotation, right? When a guy should stay in an extra inning and they take him out, we're going to talk about why isn't he in there? Why is they taking him out? We're going to talk about that. It's going to come up. So it might be a boring topic, but it's a necessary topic, because when you get to spring training, these are the questions. These are the questions or the answers. Yeah, easy. You don't have to like it. But again, you are here listening, and that's not my fault. You're here. I appreciate you're here. But the fact of the matter is, it is not a boring topic. You might think it's boring, but it's a necessary topic, because if it was so successful, more teams around the league would be doing it on an everyday basis and every year basis. There's not enough teams doing it because, again, analytics became a big thing all around baseball. But, go back 8-9 years ago, it was the Rays. It was one or two teams that were using analytics till the cows come home. And now it has taken effect throughout Major League Baseball. You know why? Because it ended up being a successful strategy, not just on the field, but business-wise as well. So analytics have taken over baseball because there was one or two teams that were successful without spending a lot of money, without having big-time names, and seemingly made the playoffs and played well throughout the season, and that's where they are. And now they're doing this with certain number of teams, which it still isn't a lot, right? I still think it's a work in progress, a 6-man rotation. There hasn't been enough success telling me that, they're not only going to stay healthy, but they're also going to pitch well, and it's going to protect their innings, right? That all hasn't come to effect, right? I don't see 6-man rotations winning World Series here or necessarily making a long run in the playoffs. The Dodgers were a different story. They had a ton of injuries. They weren't really doing a 6-man rotation. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see it during spring training and see if it's going to be a successful philosophy. All right, so let's get to the two bullpen arms that are crucial to a successful bullpen in 2025. AJ Minter and Daniel Nunez. These are two guys that were injured last year. We know how good they can be when healthy. They are crucial to this bullpen this year. Make no mistake about it. AJ Minter will be your setup man. Carlos Mendoza did say that he is working his way up to being ready for opening day. They're not going to say guarantee he's going to be ready for opening day. Now, you're not going to rush Minter, right? He's crucial to this bullpen. If he's got to wait a week after opening day, it is what it is. But there was some people, I know some people reported on Twitter that he's 100% healthy. No, they're slowly working him up as well. They believe he will be ready for opening day, which, again, that would be great. But, again, you're not going to live or die if Minter is not going to be there on opening day. If he misses the first 2 or 3 series of the year, it's not the end of the world. Get him back 100% because he will be extremely important the entire season in this bullpen, especially being the bridge to Edwin Diaz. When it comes to Daniel Nunez, he had a flexor strain in his arm, and it hurt this bullpen to the point where how crucial and helpful Nunez would have been in the bullpen in the playoffs in 2024. That was so much of a loss that it completely overused this bullpen throughout that time period because of Nunez's injury. And you saw what happens when injuries happen. You kind of got to use the guys that you trust the most more, and that leaves them getting tired. And eventually it hurt overall when you needed them the most. Daniel Nunez is a guy that, again, they're making him go slow here, obviously. He threw a bullpen session. He was throwing 95, 96 on the gun, so that's a great sign. That means his arm looks healthy. It feels healthy. That's a good sign. Again, he's the guy that can throw 97, 98 with no issue. Again, if these guys stay healthy, there is no reason why the Mets can't have a top 3, top 5 bullpen in Major League Baseball. And these guys are a big part of what the Mets can do with their bullpen. This is why, even though I am concerned about the rotation, the way baseball is now, right? Pitching is important. I'm still going to hold on to that, right? It is. But when you have a very good bullpen and you should have a top 3 offense in baseball, it should combat the possible struggles of the rotation, where you don't need the rotation to be spectacular. You just need them to be slightly above average, especially when he's on paper, he's supposed to have a very good bullpen, and you often should be top 3, top 5 in the league. And you can live with a slightly above average rotation. Again, I still don't think slightly above average is going to help you in the playoffs. I think, I truly believe that at the deadline, the Mets are going to need a starting pitcher and probably, a top starting pitcher, top 2 or 3 starting pitcher. And we'll see if that is the case. We'll see. But Minter and Nunez are very, very important. Again, once again, with their updates, AJ Minter is coming back, obviously, from hip surgery. It was not exactly the same surgery as David Peterson, but it's still the hip. It is the way David Peterson pitched last year. He said the surgery makes him feel no pain now. So we hope the same effects happen with AJ Minter. We know he has a lively arm. He's a flamethrower. He is a guy that, can pitch you a sub-3 ERA. And we know how good he was against the Mets when he was with the Braves. So you just hope he can have that Braves effect with the New York Mets in their bullpen. And again, with Nunez, they're taking it slow. The flexor strain in his arm, that obviously cost him a lot the rest of the late part of the season last year into the playoffs. He was missed dearly in this Mets bullpen. Having these 2 guys healthy, along with Garrett, Stanek, Diaz. I mean, it's just such good on paper. Such good on paper that you just hope it shows on the field. And with Minter and Nunez, let's hope they gradually work their way up. They stay healthy through spring training. And we go. Look, the most important thing in spring training is to start opening day with a healthy 26-man roster, right? You don't want to deal with injuries in spring training. I mean, they always come up, but you hope it's not serious enough where they're going to miss opening day. They're going to miss some time during the season. Let's hope so. It would be very nice. Me and Chris, the day or 2 before opening day, we're doing our season preview. We're breaking down the lineup. We're choosing our rotation. We're talking about the 26-man roster. We're talking about win totals. That's where we want to say, after everything during the season preview, we're going into opening day 100% healthy. That would be great for a 26-man roster. Again, doesn't happen often with most teams in Major League Baseball, but it would be nice that the majority of this 26-man roster, starting opening day in Houston, they're basically healthy. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope that the New York Mets stay healthy through spring training so we don't have to worry about, here we go. We got to use the depth in the pitching, the depth in the lineup or whatever. So let's hope that happens. All right. So another update. Again, the Mets had, guys that were injured most or some of last year, and Ronnie Mauricio is another. Ronnie Mauricio, taking a little bit of batting practice, doing a couple of fielding drills, running. They're building him up as well. There is no chance he will make the opening day roster. He is probably not going to play in any games until mid-March. So that just ultimately takes him out of any chance of making the 26-man roster on opening day. He is going to take time. I would be shocked if you see Mauricio anytime before June. I think they're going to take it extremely slowly. They got to get him into, they got to get him to full strength. They got to get him, doing a lot of ground ball drills, obviously moving left to right, making sure he's confident in that knee that he torn in the Dominican Winter League. That is crucial for Ronnie Mauricio. Keep him healthy, and then baseball activity, playing him 9 innings, playing shortstop, having 4 at-bats a game, playing day game after a night game, right? Playing multiple days in a row, playing 6 out of 7 days a week. He's got to feel confident in that knee. He's got to show that he can do it before the Mets have any chance of thinking about bringing him up at the big league level and helping this Mets team in 2025. But again, if everybody does their job, regardless of who might be playing second base, McNeil or Luis Acuna, if those guys are doing their job, nobody's going to care what Ronnie Mauricio or where's Ronnie Mauricio, why ain't they bringing him up, or anybody else that's the top prospect that could help the team. If everybody is doing their job at the big league level, nobody's going to complain. That includes Jeff McNeil. I said this on the last Hot Stove, and me and Chris agreed with that. The fact, which is always the case, regardless of the player that you don't want to see on this roster that is starting on this team, and 95% of people are talking about Jeff McNeil. If Jeff McNeil is even batting 290, looks like close, now I'm not saying the same, but close to what he was a couple of years ago, and he's competent, and he's not hurting this lineup, there will be no conversation about Luis Acuna. There would be no conversation with Ronnie Mauricio, because when the guy does well, nobody cares about the guys behind him, specifically the top prospects. The only time you talk about top prospects is when the guys that could take their position are not doing their job. That's it. It's just that simple. It goes for everybody. It goes for Jose Siri when it comes to Drew Gilbert, Jet Williams. That is absolutely the case. Nobody is going to care who is waiting in the farm system to replace these guys, because if they do their job, and again, when it comes to Jose Siri, let's just talk about the situation when it comes to, I'll leave Jose Siri for the Nimmo situation, the Nimmo topic. When it comes to Jeff McNeil, when it comes to the second base spot, similar aspect, similar situation. If Jeff McNeil does his job, Jeff McNeil doesn't need to be great here. Again, we're not talking about Jeff McNeil in the top 5, top 6 of the batting order. We're talking about the bottom third, 7, 8, and 9, wherever they're going to hit these guys. Jeff McNeil does not need to be great. He needs to be adequate. He needs to be average, slightly above average. He needs to not be hurting his team at the bottom of the order. If he plays somewhat well, nobody's going to care about Luis Acuna or Ronnie Mauricio when he might be coming back, or anybody else that can play second base to replace Jeff McNeil. Because the important thing with Jeff McNeil now is not just worrying about him batting 300. He needs to lower his strikeouts. He needs to be more of a contact hitter, and he needs to get that on base up. He needs to get on base more. He needs to get on base more, right? Depending on what they're going to do at the bottom of the order, it's looking like I would think that Jose Siri could be batting 8th or 9th. You want to have, and Siri does have power. He's not going to hit for average, but he's a guy that can knock 20 home runs over the wall. You want to get your bottom of the order on base for a guy like Jose Siri, who can hit one over the wall, who could be a 20-21 home run guy, which is nice. I like that at the bottom of the order. But not only that with Jose Siri, Jeff McNeil needs to be a part and be productive, not worrying about hitting home runs, not trying to be a doubles hitter. He needs to go back to the slap hitter, the singles guy, the on-base guy, to get on base for guys that actually bring you home, right? Depending on what this lineup's going to look like, and obviously me and Chris will get into that later in the offseason, later in spring training when we do our season preview, when we break down our lineups, now that we most likely have the lineup that everybody believes we'll have, and we'll talk about that later in spring. But the most important thing is the fact that with Ronnie Mauricio, and we know he's not going to probably be here in probably late May into June, because he's not going to go into a spring training game until late March. The only guy that everybody's going to talk about is Luis Acuna. Now, when it comes to the situation, and this kind of relates to Ronnie Mauricio, even though technically he's not going to make the team on opening day, when it comes to Jeff McNeil and Luis Acuna, Mendoza said he's leaning Jeff McNeil because he's the veteran. He's making more money, so they're not going to say that, but we all know the case. The second base job is up for grabs. If Luis Acuna plays well in spring and plays better than Jeff McNeil. And I don't think it can be close. If it's a close where Jeff McNeil's playing well, Luisano Acuna is playing well, they're going to lean towards the veteran and Jeff McNeil. They just are. Unless Luisano Acuna is just destroying the baseball in spring training, and it's just so obvious. The talk of spring training is Luisano Acuna. I think that's the only way he makes the team, and that's the only way he starts at second base for the New York Mets on opening day. I know that doesn't excite a lot of people, but the Mets are not going to have Acuna make this team and sit on the bench. They're not going to make him a backup. Even though he might get some playing time 3, maybe 4 times a week, it's still not enough at bats to give him, to get him better, to get him the at bats that the Mets want him to get. You're not going to sit guys like that. There's more of a chance that Brett Beatty might be one of the bench pieces before Luisano Acuna, because Brett Beatty is a guy that a lot of people don't like anymore. They think that he's not a major league player. But if you really think about it, the fact is Brett Beatty is a guy that the Mets probably are not trying to get a ton of at-bats. You know, if he does end up in the minor leagues to start the season, of course he's going to get a lot of at-bats. But I think they can see him being a role player on a bench because he's lost a lot of value. Not really a top prospect anymore. We'll see. But they have more high hopes for Luisano Acuna. They're not sitting him on the bench 3 out of the 7 days a week. They're just not doing that. To get the most at-bats. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I saw something about Heyman said that the Mets are pushing hard for Dylan Cease and the Padres. So we'll see. Interesting. Joe, thank you for that. I'm going to look at that really quickly. Did he just post that or something? All right, let's just keep on going with that. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the comments really quick, guys. Yeah, they're on. And I want to throw that comment up real quick. Yeah, if he hits 275, 15 home runs and 75 RBIs and 350 on base percentage, guys, we would all sign on the dotted lines for that. Now, I don't even know if Acuna can do that, to be quite honest with you, yet. Right? Me and Chris, well, I would say me. I'm not going to put words in Chris's mouth, but I don't know if Luisano Acuna is going to be a 25, 30 home run guy. And I don't think he needs to be quite frank with you. I think Acuna could be a 20 home run guy, but if he can bat, I don't know if he's going to be an average guy, Luisano Acuna, right? At the moment, he still strikes out a little bit too much. He doesn't put the bat on the ball enough, in my opinion. And he's had that trouble in the minor leagues. He's probably going to be a 245, 250 hitter. So if he's not going to be a 25, 30 home run guy, Luisano Acuna, you would think, projects to be a number 1 or number 2 in the lineup. He's going to use his speed. He's got to bat the ball. He's got to, put the ball on the ground, use his speed, make the defense make mistakes. He's got to be a gap-to-gap guy. He's got to hit a lot of doubles. He's got to hit, a decent amount of triples. He's got to be a guy that's got to be an extra base hit type of guy. I don't know if Luisano Acuna can be a 275 plus hitter. Right? I think he can hit 20 home runs, but I don't see him. I don't think he projects to be a 25, 30 home run guy. So if he can be a 250, 260 hitter, but be a doubles machine, a triples machine, extra base hit type of guy, I don't mind 15 to 20 home runs and 80 RBIs. That's fine. It's not the top prospect everybody believes he can be. But I don't know if he's going to be that 270, 280 hitter. I think he's going to be around the 240, 250 hitter. So what he needs to do well is hit a ton of doubles, hit a ton of extra base hits, use his speed to be a stolen base threat, and be on base for the guys that are going to be the big run producers like the Pete Alonsos of the world, like the Brandon Nimmos, like the Juan Sotos. That's what his most dangerous assets should be if he makes this lineup. So, and that's the thing where I don't think that we can just thrust Luisano Acuna and everybody expects him to, bat 270, hit a ton of home runs, be an all-star type player, right? I don't think you can expect that even, especially off the bat. But I don't know if his career, if he's going to be a 25-plus home run guy. Is he going to bat 270? Probably not, right? Most top prospects usually don't do that. It's more about power. It's more about RBIs. It's OPS. I don't even know if Acuna is going to be that type of player. I think he's projecting to be a top 1 or 2 guy in the lineup. So you're not expecting him. You don't need that guy to hit 25 plus home runs. You would like him to hit 270 plus, but I don't see him being that type of player. So I think Jeff McNeil is going to start the season as the starting second baseman. And, depending on what the Mets do, if Magical is going to be the guy that's going to be the super utility guy, that is your bench guy. That's a guy that knows his role. He is a bench player. You don't need to get Magical a ton of at-bats, right? Luisano Acuna, you can't stunt his growth. You got to get him the most at-bats. Let him become a better player. He can probably help you later in the year or middle of the year more than bringing him up, thrusting him into the second base role. And if he struggles, what are you going to do? You're going to have to send him down. You can't just leave him out there. You're trying to win ball games. You have Juan Soto. You got Pete Alonso. You got Lindor. You got all these guys in their prime. You got to win ball games. This isn't a evaluation of 2025. You can't have these guys play and struggle and hurt the team. You just can't do that this year. You can't do that. Last year was the year. Unfortunately, the Mets actually made the playoffs and started to make a run, so it was hard to show those guys. The whole plan was to bring up these guys, to evaluate these guys, to see what they could do at the big league level, but most of them you couldn't bring up because of the fact that you were in a playoff race. So the important thing is that it's Jeff McNeil's job to lose. And again, if Luisano Acuna outperforms him, and again, I think he has to have a major gap of what he's doing in spring compared to Jeff McNeil. Luisano Acuna needs to have, crazy numbers. He needs to be the talk of spring. And Jeff McNeil has to be playing bad. Because if Jeff McNeil is playing solid, even if Luisano Acuna is just tearing it up, Jeff McNeil is going to get the starting gig. And it doesn't make sense to put Acuna on the bench. It just does not. It makes more sense to get him a ton of at-bats in spring. And again, you give Jeff McNeil a month, just like they did with Brett Beatty. That's exactly what you do. And if Jeff McNeil is not holding up his end of the bargain in the month of April, if Luisano Acuna is doing his job in spring, give him the starting gig. They did it with Brady. They did it with Beatty, and Mark Vientos took over the job. Can that happen successfully again? We'll see. But there's no reason why you can't give Jeff McNeil the starting job for a month and see what he can do. Because once again, in this lineup right now, Luisano Acuna is going to be batting in the same area of the lineup than Jeff McNeil in the bottom third. It's just how it's going to go. Especially with your top 6 being what it's going to be, that's not going to change much, basically, on position of the lineup. 7 through 9 can change. But I do believe Jeff McNeil is going to get that. It's his job to lose, and we'll see how that works out when it comes to Jeff McNeil and Luisano Acuna. But Mendoza did say it is kind of a battle, and the job is kind of open, even though they're leaning Jeff McNeil at the moment. But again, it is only February 14th. Long way to go in spring training. All right, so let's talk about the thing that I was concerned about earlier in the offseason is Brandon Nimmo, right? Now, Nimmo always has slowly progressed in spring training, even when he was healthy. They slowly progressed because, again, he has a tendency, and throughout his career, injuries have plagued him, right? Go figure. The year that was his contract year, he stayed healthy the entire year and had a great season and got a big payday. But the majority of his career has been injury plagued. This guy cannot stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's one of the Mets' better players. But can we count on that in 2025? We couldn't count on that last year. Couldn't count on that in 2023 for the most part. 2022 was his most healthy and successful season. The majority of his career has been injury plagued. So Not only does Nimmo usually in spring training, even when he's healthy, slowly progress to protect him from injuries, they're taking it at a snail's pace with Brandon Nimmo. Like Brandon Nimmo usually doesn't get into spring training games until like the first like 3 week, like week 3 or 4 of spring training, like March, like late February, early March. He gets into games. I don't think we're going to see Brandon Nimmo in the lineup playing, a ton of innings in spring until March. Like they're taking it so slow with Brandon Nimmo, slower than usual in spring, that this is what I concern myself with. Even with the plan for years with Brandon Nimmo to take it slow in spring training and slowly progress, playing the field a couple of innings, hitting a few times a game. He's still been getting hurt, regardless if it's a fluke injury or not, right? You shouldn't bounce off the wall and automatically get injured. He was a bulldog last year. He played with that plantar fascia, and that's not an easy injury as a ball player. I know personally, it's not a fun injury. And you know what? I was a third baseman. He's moving around a lot more than I am most of the time. So it's a tough injury, but he has not been healthy. Even with the slow progression in spring training, he still has been injured and has affected this team for years. And we know what he can do when he's healthy. Can Brandon Nimmo stay healthy? That's a big question mark. We just don't know. This is why I think they should have DH'd him. I think that early on this season, I wouldn't be shocked that you would see Jesse Winker in left field or Tyrone Taylor and DH Brandon Nimmo a couple of times a week. I think you're going to see that more often than not. Even though as of right now, the Mets are still trying to trade Starlin Marte. But as of right now, you got a righty-lefty platoon at DH with Winker and Starlin Marte. But in my opinion, to try to keep Brandon Nimmo healthy, I think you got to DH him a couple of times a week. And if that takes at bats away from Jesse Winker, so be it. Again, if there's a righty on the mound, you can put Winker in left field. He's not a great defender, but you get that bat in the lineup as well. You can throw Marte in left field if need be. I know that's not, exciting, but the key here is to keep Brandon Nimmo healthy. Can you keep Brandon Nimmo healthy for an entire season? Because we know what he can do with the bat, right? He's not a great defensive outfielder, right? He was solid in center field, not great. Left field, I think he can be a very solid left fielder. But again, with the multitude of injuries, he loses a step or two. And again, this is why the Jose Siri trade was important, because the Mets are looking at Brandon Nimmo in left field. And obviously when they traded for Siri, Juan Soto wasn't a New York Met. But even if they didn't get Juan Soto, it was looking like Starlin Marte in right field. Two guys that are hindered by injuries that are not as fast in the gaps as they were a couple of years ago. So Jose Siri is going to combat that. Jose Siri is one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball. He is going to control the left center field gap and the right center field gap. That helps Brandon Nimmo and even Juan Soto in right field. Those guys are not going to necessarily need to worry about right center or left center field gaps. For the most part. Obviously, at times they will, but Jose Siri covers a ton of ground. That was the big reasons why David Stern got Jose Siri. Knowing that Nimmo might be playing a ton of left field. We know Juan Soto is going to play a lot of right field. How do you combat the lack of defense in left and right field? Having a great center fielder. And Jose Siri is that. It's going to protect Juan Soto and his deficiencies running down balls in the right center field gap. He has issues with that. There's no doubt about that. And David Stearns planned for either Marte or Soto in right field, knowing that their defense running into the right center field gap is an issue. That's not what they do well. Same thing with left field with Brandon Nimmo. Now, it's not the ability of Brandon Nimmo, but it's the health. When Brandon Nimmo's hindered with health, he is not good going to the left center field gap because of his injuries. That is why Jose Siri is crucial. Now, you didn't get Jose Siri for his bat, even though he'll probably bat 200, maybe a little less than that, but he will hit 20 home runs. But they didn't get him for his bat. They got him because he's a great center fielder, gold glove center fielder, can run down balls in the right and left center field gaps with ease. That's why you get a guy like that to combat the deficiencies of a Brandon Nimmo in left and a Juan Soto in right. We know they're not the greatest fielders in right and left field. Understandable. We know the best part of Juan Soto's game is his bat, right? Even though when he gets the balls, Juan Soto catches them, which is good, which is good to know, right? He actually was in the top percentile in throwing out runners at bases, Juan Soto. So running to a bag, gunning guys out, he was one of the top in baseball at doing that. He has a solid arm. He has accuracy in his arm. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he threw 4 guys out at the plate in right field at home. And again, overall, he was one of the best in throwing runners out at any base, which is good. And again, on opening day, when they played Houston, he gunned out a guy at home plate and helped the Yankees win a game. So, Chris, what are you talking about? How much have I been drinking? Jose Siri, a Gold Glover. Yes, he is. He is a great center fielder. He is one of the best center fielders in baseball. Like, that shouldn't be news to you. That's a fact. So when it comes to Brandon Nimmo, guys, it's a slow progression, snail's pace progression. That's an issue, right? Because I don't know if Brandon Nimmo can stay healthy. He's done it like a year, maybe 2 out of his, 7-8 year career. I don't trust Brandon Nimmo staying healthy because he hasn't done it for the most part in his career. And it has affected what the Mets can do with the lineup. Brandon Nimmo healthy with the lineup they currently have, you're talking about a top 5 or 6 that is one of the best in baseball, right? This is just a lineup that I'm putting together for the top 6, right? You got Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Alvarez. Like, that is a really good, if not one of the best top 6 in baseball. You know, obviously the Dodgers are better, but it could be one of the better lineups in baseball, just on paper. Obviously, they got to play the game. So, with the hope of the slow, snail-paced progression of Brandon Nimmo, obviously trying to get him back from that plantar fascia, not only was that injury, that plagued him late in the year. He had other injuries earlier in the year, and he wasn't good. So that's the issue. Can he stay healthy? That is another main goal that the Mets have to worry about. But if I'm the Mets, I would DH Nimmo a couple of times a week, at least the first month of April, to keep him healthy. To keep that bat in the lineup, but keep him healthy as well. Keep him off his feet a good amount of the time. And you have Tyrone Taylor. You have Jesse Winker. You even have Starlin Marte. You have 3 guys that you can throw in left field if need be. And if you really think about it, if there's a right-hander on the mound, you would think Winker would play left, Nimmo would DH. And you would keep Tyrone Taylor and Marte on the bench as right-handed batters that might pinch hit in the game if there's a lefty on the mound. So that's what I think could happen. And what I would do if I'm Mendoza. And again, I love what Mendoza has done last year. He was never afraid of changing up the lineup, sitting down Bader, the $10 million man, for Tyrone Taylor because he was outperforming Bader offensively. And we know Tyrone Taylor can run it down defensively. So the case of Brandon Nimmo. Keep him healthy. We know what he can do when he's healthy. I think to combat and to hope to protect him from injury and to keep him healthy for the majority of the year, I think you have to use that DH with Brandon Nimmo more often than not. You got enough outfielders. I'm not saying like Tyron Taylor is damn good. He can play left field with ease. But again, it's going to be based on matchups. If there's a righty on the mound, you know Winker, you know Nimmo's going to be in the lineup. I put Winker in left field. You do have Jose Siri in center, so you don't have to worry about the gaps. Winker will go in left field, and you DH Brandon Nimmo. That's what I think can happen. And talking about Dylan Cease, so we can just go back to the beginning here, as we talked about and broke down everything in the early part of spring training. Talked about Brandon Sproat, opened up some eyes in the live batting practice. Live batting practice. Clay Holmes, 3 impressive innings in the live bullpen against major league hitters. Good to see with Sproat as well. Senga threw a bullpen through all his pitchers. Reports saying he's fully healthy. Minter and Nunez, slow progress with those guys. Nunez threw a bullpen. He hit 96 on the gun. Minter still hasn't really done much yet, but they're going to slowly get to him as well, slowly progress with him. They're hoping that AJ Minter will be able to start, be ready for opening day. Not a guarantee, but they're hoping that that's the case. Ronnie Mauricio, probably not going to be. They said the reports are he's not going to be in the game until mid-March. So he's not going to make the opening day roster. Probably not going to see him until May, late May, early June. Brandon Nimmo, snail's pace progress, very slow progress with him. Probably not going to see him in the game until the end of February, maybe even early March. So keeping Brandon Nimmo healthy is obviously crucial to benefit this team as a whole. It just makes the lineup that much better. To combat that, I think you need the DH Nimmo a couple times a week just to keep him off his feet, keep that bat in the lineup. And the whole thing with Dylan Cease, I know people are talking about that. John Heyman posted, I haven't read it, but I know people in the chat are saying that the fact that the Mets are still trying to pursue Dylan Cease. And again, why are you heavily pursuing Dylan Cease if you're confident in your rotation, right? I know you can always try to make your team better. I know David Stearns talks about that. But as confident as he sounds about this rotation and the pitching lab, you don't go out and heavily try to pursue Dylan Cease and try to trade for him if you believe in your rotation. Now, again, I truly believe. I said this from the beginning. I still think David Stearns has something up his sleeves trade-wise before the spring training or the offseason ends before the season. And if it's Dylan Cease, great. But I feel like he's going to bring a starting pitcher in here in a trade. And it seems like he's trying to get Dylan Cease. And we'll see if that happens. Obviously, the Padres really like Luisano Acuna. Again, I'm willing to give Luisano Acuna in a package for Dylan Cease. I know he's a rental. But are we trying to win a World Series this year? Or are we just playing a string out and just hope for the best? I'm sick of hope. This team has not won since 86. So for people who talk about patience, you don't sign Juan Soto to $1 billion deal. You don't re-sign Pete Alonso on a basically, another basically 1-year deal with opt-outs and a couple of other guys as well, that a lot of these guys, even the pitchers, some of them have opt-outs, some of them don't. But you got Francisco Lindor in his prime. How many years more you got of Lindor in his prime? Maybe 3, possibly 4. Brandon Nimmo's already breaking down. What do you got, 2 or 3 years with him? Pete Alonso might be gone. Juan Soto might be the face of the franchise in 2 to 3 years. Right? You have Vientos, you have Alvarez. But the fact of the matter is, you got to win. At some point, you got to go for it. Dylan Cease will put the cherry on top for this team. Right? I know a lot of people would be upset if they trade Luisano Acuna, and obviously a couple other prospects will go along with him. But Dylan Cease makes you better. Dylan Cease can probably bring you 3 to 5 wins more. That could be the difference of a wild card, possibly missing the playoffs, or even winning the division. Right? Because the Braves, I don't believe, got better. And with the Braves, you never know. They always make these trades. You got to keep Dylan Cease away from the Braves. The Braves haven't done much. The Phillies haven't really done much this offseason. They got a bullpen arm. They got Luzardo, who has been injured. bolstering up their rotation. But for the most part, the Mets have got better this offseason. Dylan Cease can bring 3 to 5 more wins. Because what you do, you basically have Dylan Cease as that other guy of your 6-man rotation. Right now, it's Griffin Cannon or Tyler McGill. I think we'd rather have Dylan Cease. You make your team better. Right? I think this team can be a 90-plus win team easily. But Dylan Cease can actually make that much, much better. So, guys, first Mets spring training report of this early spring training season. Obviously, I'll probably do this every other day, depending on if there's any breaking news. I'll go live. We'll see about the Dylan Cease. We'll keep a close eye on that. I do think David Stearns has a trade up his sleeve for a starting pitcher. It's seeming more and more that he wants Dylan Cease. How far is he willing to go to get Dylan Cease? Again, I'm still waiting for David Stearns to trade prospects. He hasn't done it yet. I understand why he didn't do it last year. There's too many guys that are middle infielders that don't have spots that you can use assets to make your team better now. Dylan Cease, we know he's not the best pitcher in the world, right? He's going to be a little above above 3 ERA. But he has a ton of strikeouts. He's a bulldog on the mound. He's a damn good pitcher. He can probably be the ace of the staff. Like, he's better than Sean Manaea. He's better than Kodai Senga. He's better than everybody the Mets rotation has to offer. Not saying that he'll pitch opening day. That still might be Sean Manaea's thing. Or Kodai Senga. But getting Dylan Cease makes you that much better. With that said, guys, keep a close eye. Maybe the Mets are trying to pull off a deal for Dylan Cease early on in spring training. That would be the cherry on top, guys, of the offseason. And I'd be damn excited if they do that. We'll keep the eyes open for that. Once again, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in for the first episode of the Mets Spring Training Report right here on the channel. Hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time on the Mets Spring Training Report right here on the channel. Have a good night, guys. Let's go Mets. Baseball is back, baby. See you next time, guys. Have a good night.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go?